This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
And Doc, as you know, this fine edition of Tigers Talk is brought to you by DC Sports at Lakeside Mall in Sterling Heights. And by the way, everybody, we have 2 autographed balls from Sweet Lou Whitaker to give away coming up here soon this week via John Macaroon and the Detroit Sports Podcast Network platform. Now, you can follow and find out much more about all the terrific autograph signings and authentic sports memorabilia found at and online for DC Sports. That is Detroit City Sports by following DC Sports on Twitter at DC Sports Detroit and by checking out their terrific website at DetroitCitySports.com. And welcome to the latest, the freshest edition of Tigers Talk with Chirco and Company. I am your host, Vito Geronimo Chirco, alongside my usual sidekick and broadcast partner and fun. That is Doc from Doc and Jock, John Charles Macaroon. John, how are you doing, man?
Vito, as the trade deadline approaches, you're safe. I know after July 31st, you were wondering if I was going to ship you somewhere else, if you were going to be broadcasting through your own basement or your own platform. Nope. You're sticking with us for a long time, unlike Matthew Boyd, Shane Green, Nick Castellanos, who probably are wondering, are these my last days as a Detroit Tiger? You're sticking with the Detroit Sports Podcast Network. You have nothing to worry about. But I will say this. If a journalistically strong female with more ambition and better timeliness comes across my path and slips me a resume under my door, you better watch out.
Are you saying that she's prettier than me, too? Would you be inferring that by hiring a female, John? I want to set this straight right now with everybody out there.
Vito, look, don't put me in that category of a boss. No, I'm talking about somebody with quote-unquote talent that comes in here that has the ability to be on time, start broadcasts professionally, and communicate in an effective manner. Then you watch out. Right now, that person hasn't come across my way, so I'm sticking with you.
Because nobody else wants to deal with your shenanigans, which is why I requested a trade. So I guess you're not going to satisfy my trade demands because you had said I'm safe until July 31. I'm not going to be dealt. I'll be here the rest of the way this year. I wanted to get traded. I asked for a trade. I can't even get the hell out of here.
Well, you know, unlike the Tigers, you have 1 year left on your deal. We're not extending you until then. We're going to review you.
I'm like Nick Castellanos here, right? Lame duck. I got that lame duck status. That's why, hey, I don't show up on time and why I don't have any sense of urgency. I mean, when you are a lame duck like Nick C., hey, we don't have that ambition to perform at a high level anymore, maybe. Come on, think about that, John.
So are you saying that your performance and just showing up here whenever you feel like it is all mental?
It's dictated by the fact that I have been mentally bothered by you making me a lame duck and not extending my contract past 2019.
As a boss, 1 year at a time, baby. That's how we roll here at the Detroit Sports Podcast Network. And I like the fact that with that, we can open this podcast talking about real issues in terms of the plight of the Detroit Tigers. Obviously, as the trade deadline approaches, there's one guy in the Tigers organization that has all the pressure on him, and it's Avila. And people are definitely clamoring, especially with how bad this season has gone. We're going to talk about probably, is this the worst season, or will next season actually be worse than this one? Obviously, this is the first year of a rebuild, okay? This is obviously 1 year where you realize, okay, a lot of these guys aren't going to be part of the long-term future. They're still deconstructing. Now, you can pick apart who has left and what you've gotten back in some trades. You can pick apart whether the Tigers should have actually moved on from Michael Fulmer. Should they move on from other athletes and things like that? You can definitely be critical of the rebuild, but I truly believe this is going to be the worst year of it. Next year has to be better because I think they're going to bring in different individuals and they're going to move on. And hopefully some of the younger talent will be up here, like a Jake Rogers, maybe a Matt Manning, a Burrows. Somebody else potentially could be up here and contributing to a Tigers team. But I'll ask you this, Vito. Avila has the toughest job. He has the job of going out there across Major League Baseball and shopping Matthew Boyd, Nick Castellanos, and Shane Green. Now, Shane Green should be probably the easiest one to deal because he's a reliever, he's got talent, he's obviously pitching very well, the Detroit Tigers' lone representative. Nick Castellanos might be different. He might be the one guy that returns. So everyone's really focusing in on Boyd. They're watching each and every performance. There are scouts that are going to the road games that the Detroit Tigers are playing, and they're coming to Comerica Park, and they're watching Matthew Boyd. as a result of some of his outings, he's been giving up a little bit more home runs. He's pitching very well. His strikeout to walk rate is very well. He's efficiently doing his job. He's getting better. But is he of the quality in terms of a pitcher, 30 years old, under team control? Is he good enough to be traded for something of value? And I think across Major League Baseball, there are some that are even saying, you know what? Let's debate the fact and the merits of him actually being traded. Should the Tigers stick with him? Because there aren't too many left-handed pitchers that are under team control that have the skill set that Matthew Boyd has. Why not let him be a 2 or a 3 on a team that's contending for the playoffs? I say this. It's Avila's job to go out there and trade Matthew Boyd. If he's not traded by July 31st, I think it'll be an indictment on what's going on. And if he does get traded, I'm expecting a similar haul that the White Sox got for trading Jose Quintana to the Cubs. And that's the starting point. But I just feel like when Avila calls other general managers, I just think that the offers are going to be really, really low. And they know the Tigers are desperate because their hands are exposed. They're operating from a position of weakness, I think, at this time. So I'm a little bit concerned. But I'll start the debate with this. Should Matthew Boyd be traded? Should he be a guy that maybe you revisit and say, you know what, he's a left-handed pitcher under team control, only 30 years old, is getting better incrementally? Should he be looked at to be traded? And if he is, if your answer is yes, do you think Avila is going to get a haul that could actually help a rebuild in the coming years? Because, bro, right now it's tough. Times are tough talking Tiger baseball.
You're looking to deal him, and you're looking to deal him for a nice package of prospects in return. Now, if you don't get that nice haul, that's truly an indictment on Avila. Now, you said if he doesn't deal Matthew Boyd, it's an indictment on Avila. No, it's an indictment on him if he doesn't get the necessary package of prospects in return for his services. And really, let's say one middle-tier prospect along with, to be more precise here, John, a Major League-ready bat that is already at the Major League level, performing to some degree, or is in Double-A, looking ready to go by the end of this season or by the start of next season. And really by midway through next year, worst case scenario. So you need to make sure, if and when you deal Matthew Boyd here, John, that you get that nice package of prospects. But will he be landing Gleyber Torres from the Yankees, a guy like that, or Kyle Tucker from the Houston Astros, who reportedly he's tried to deal for? No. Because Matthew Boyd, still, with all of the great things he's showcased this season thus far, all of his great stuff and the great strikeout numbers, he's still, I think, a solid number 3, and that's the best case scenario. He's not a number 1. I don't think he's a number 2, so truly he's not a frontline starting arm. With that being said, it just helps out that he's a left-hander. When you're a lefty, you're more sexy. And he's striking out batters at a premium rate this season. But over the course of his last, 5 outings now, John, he hasn't been near perfect. Or, perfect enough and looking like the Matthew Boyd that looks superb to start the season. So numbers have decreased overall-wise when it comes to ERA, FIP, but his strikeout numbers are still strong. So I like that. And that helps out Avila when looking to deal him. But once again, when I view anything being an indictment on Avila, it is going to come down to, if the Tigers deal Matthew Boyd and don't land a middle-tier prospect along with the Major League-ready hitter who is already at the Major League level or is close to reaching that level, then it is truly an indictment on Avila.
2019, Matthew Boyd has 6 wins, 7 losses, 3.95 ERA, started 19 games. He has an FIP of 3.47 with a whip of 1.140. So those are above average numbers. Those numbers indicate to me that he's been producing. And don't you take into account the fact that he plays for the Detroit Tigers? There are several situations where, he pitched pretty well against Cleveland, but unfortunately, there are times where he's going up against these teams and he's pitching well, but the offense isn't bringing anything to the table. So there are a number of those starts that when you look at his record of 6-7, it's not indicative of how well he has pitched. I mean, he's got 152 strikeouts this year.
Sure, that's nice, that's sexy, but how about his most recent outings? 4 runs allowed on the 13th against the Royals. 4 runs allowed and only 5 1/3 innings against the White Sox on July 4th. Before that, on the 26th against Texas, 4 runs allowed. On the 21st against Cleveland, 5 runs allowed. 5 runs before that allowed against KC. That's a string of outings where he hasn't been top-notch and at his best level. And the Tigers need him at his A level. If they want to garner the return they have in mind for his services, that can be used to redeem Avila for his failure to get a quality return for JD Martinez and others, then they need Matthew Boyd once again to pitch at that A quality level. And once again, he simply has not as of late.
Do they get the job done? Does Avila bring in what we need from Matthew Boyd?
I'm going to say no. I mean, how can you be optimistic based on what he got for JD Martinez when looking at what he got for Justin Verlander based on what that return looks like as of right now with Diaz Cameron not being the sharpest hitter in AAA, Jake Rogers looking solid but not great, Franklin Perez, the prize prospect of that package of prospects in return for Justin Verlander, not looking like this guy that can get past the injury bug, and the injury bug keeps beating him up. All of that added up, Doc, makes me say that Avila isn't going to get the return the Tigers need for Matthew Boyd.
Oh, man, especially with Shane Green, Matthew Boyd, and Nick Castellanos, you could start to bring in some pieces. Obviously, you need some bats. Obviously, you need some prospects. You need guys that are going to come in and play in the field, position players. Yeah, I think that a lot of fans believe it, too. We're definitely going to talk about the addition of Trevor Rosenthal. He made his debut versus Cleveland. Former stud closer now brought in by the Detroit Tigers. Potentially, some people have looked at that and say, you know what, that might signal the end of Shane Green, knowing that they've gone out and brought in another reliever at the quality level of Trevor Rosenthal. I'll get your sense of, do you think he's still got it, and will he make an impact if Shane Green is dealt? So you're saying that you don't think that Avila will make the impactful moves. You think they'll make the moves. Avila will get the trades done, but you think other general managers will get the better of Avila.
Well, it seems like that's been the case in the past. At least the one that really sticks out to me, the worst trade he's ever made, was with the Diamondbacks for JD Martinez. He's an all-star slugger, and you get that return, Joel Lugo, Sergio Alcantara. I mean, infield prospects, Jose King, middle infielders that are light-hitting infielders, and that was your great return for JD Martinez? You've got to be kidding me. None of those guys will become standout major leaguers. Jose King and Sergio Alcantara might never reach the majors. And we've seen Joel Lugo, his OPS south of 700, barely 600. What is he really projected to be at the major league level outside of a utility infielder? And that was the guy that has reached the majors out of that return so far? Not good enough. Not cutting the mustard seed. And that's an indictment on Avila and could eventually cost him his job, even though he has been extended now. We talked about that ad nauseum last week, and he should not have been at this point. Just bad PR to start off. But that deal could come back to strike him in the behind eventually and cost him his job.
Well, obviously the Tigers have struggled. They're going to continue to lose series after series. I mean, we looked at the schedule, and you and I are going to go out to Comerica Park and cover the remainder of the season. And we looked and we said, well, outside of the Yankees, a lot of divisional foes will finish out the second half of the 2019 season. But do you believe this is the worst it's going to be? Because it's tough, Vito. FSD has cut the pregame from an hour to a half hour. Games are tough. I mean, that stretch there, we got lucky in that Boston series. You and I didn't go out there and cover a lot of the games where there were like 4-hour rain delays. You and I said, look, let's just enjoy the fourth off. Let's just enjoy some time away from baseball. Let's take an extended break from covering the Tigers. And we went out and covered the Sunday game. But you look at it and you say, not a lot of buzz, not a lot of hype. Obviously, news being made regarding the roster, Miguel Cabrera. But is this the worst it's going to be? Do you think that next year could be even worse than this year? Because this is looking like a 5-year, 6-year type thing where, you know, you're going to be 30 plus.
Oh, please don't do that to me. Why do you keep doing that every single week on this podcast, Doc? You're killing me, man.
Because when you put it in that perspective, you know, you're 26 now. You might not be talking about competitive baseball in Detroit until you're 30, and that seems like a long time away. You might have a gray hair or two when you might be interviewing an athlete talking about wins in some significant playoff series. It's fascinating, right? But is this the worst it's going to be, or should we prepare? Should we put the seatbelts on for a bumpy 2020, 2021? Because you and I are going to be out there. We're going to be covering the team. Is it going to be bumpy the next couple of seasons? Or do we at least start to get around close to 500 next year? Or is next year the season where they lose 110 games plus and it's just a complete nightmare? Because this season looks to be really tough to watch game in and game out.
First and foremost, I think I already have a gray hair or two because of dealing with you on a weekly basis for 2 podcasts, not just Tigers Talk, but for 2 Bad Hombres as well, okay? Also, I don't know if it's going to get better or become worse next season because of the fact is Ron Gardenhire even the man to lead the ship in the right direction? I saw Monday night him pull Daniel Norris after 89 pitches. And I kept thinking to myself, Norris got through 5 2/3 innings and had the 8 Ks and was great, I thought, overall-wise, okay? Good enough to keep in the ballgame against the mighty tough Tribe at Progressive Field. I thought he should have kept Daniel Norris in the ballgame. He pulled him when I thought to myself, your team stinks, your bullpen is no better off than Daniel Norris, even after 89 pitches. And then, with it being said that he had thrown 89 pitches, Doc, I don't think he threw too many pitches to keep him in the ball game in that 5th inning. So he didn't let him, or in that 6th inning, so he didn't let him complete the 6th inning. I thought he should have. And the thing is, once again, do you trust Avila and Ron Gardenhire to help this team become a better ball club going into next season, to help this team lose less games next year than this season? Those are some big question marks when it comes to the Tigers ball club. So, it might not be the Tigers bottoming out this season. They might bottom out truly next season.
Oh, Vito.
Think of that. I mean, I keep thinking more and more, and I know I'm really spinning all of this in a very negative fashion, but who is there to be optimistic in? Can we even be optimistic in Ron Gardenhire anymore, who I think fans did like his ways, and I really have harped upon the fact that I think he's been a good veteran presence for the clubhouse, and a clubhouse not full of many leaders. And I'm not trying to slam anybody and saying that, but it's the truth. So I thought Gardy has kept this ship afloat, but right now, as I keep, watching these games and I've started to evaluate what he's done more and more this season, Doc, is he the best manager for this current team? When you see some incidents such as Monday night where I think he mismanaged the ball club, and none of these games matter right now, but I think you could have picked up a W Monday night by leaving Norris on the mound, a lefty who was looking solid with 8 Ks. Let him stay in the ball game. Why go to your pen? And then guess what happens, by the way, once he was pulled? 2 more runs were scored by the Indians. So 5 earned runs from Norris subsequently. Once again, I think Norris should have been kept in. And who do you trust in? To sum it up, who do you trust in moving forward with the Tigers to make you believe this team, this ship is turning around in time for next season?
Great question. And the tough part is that you recognize, okay, the second half of this season could be really a disaster with Shane Green gone, Nick Castellanos, Matthew Boyd. You're going to lose some talented individuals. Who else is left? It's going to be a bullpen by committee. You got to figure out what to do with the starters. You got to kind of figure out if Turnbull is going to be consistent, because lately he's kind of turned the corner and been a little bit inconsistent.
The injury bug right there with him, that's a scary thing moving forward now, too.
Okay, second half of the podcast, you had a strong take. You want to spend Chris Ilitch's money, and you just want to give it away. You on Twitter said that there's a starting pitcher making a boatload of money that you want gone. We'll share your thoughts on that second half of the podcast. Want to show love to the second sponsor of this fine broadcast, the Detroit Sports Commission.
The Detroit Sports Commission has this great Zenith Prep Kickoff Classic in its 15th year, and it is celebrating in grand fashion with terrific matchups from August 29th through 31st at Tom Adams Field on the campus of Wayne State University. To find out more about the Zenith Prep Kickoff Classic in its 15th year, and much more about all of the events the Detroit Sports Commission is putting on in this year and beyond, please follow the Detroit Sports Commission on Twitter and on Instagram at DET Sports, and make sure to check out the Sports Commission's terrific website at DetroitSports.org.
So, Vito, you brought up that we're recording 2 podcasts a week. Well, now it's 3. A new USPBL broadcast.
Yeah. How am I going to deal with you? My God, these gray hairs are just increased by the day now. I already have 2 or 3 because of you.
The new USPBL broadcast will take place on Wednesdays, coinciding with the release of Tigers Talk. Look for it every single Wednesday, DetroitSportsPodcast.com. Love what's going on over there with Andy Appleby and Jimmy Johnsfield. The USPBL podcast will have great guests, get inside knowledge of guys working hard to try and get into the major leagues. And as of now, as of 2019, since the inception of the league, 32 athletes that have come through, that have played with the four teams, have gone on and signed with major league organizations. And they're developing great young talent. Hopefully great successes for the podcast and the United Shore Professional Baseball League. All right, Vito, you are not impressed. Nobody really is impressed with Jordan Zimmermann. Everybody that's watching him pitch, I mean, literally, when you need him to go out there and perform well, when they actually give him runs. Because as of late, in a recent stretch of games, if you've watched the Tigers, I know you and I are crazy enough to still stick with it and watch, they're scoring runs, okay? So the Tigers are scoring runs, but guess what? Jordan Zimmermann takes the mound and gives up more runs. You're like, come on, man. When you have a rough inning, stop giving up 3 and 4 runs. And he said it on a recent broadcast. It's unacceptable. It's embarrassing that it just seems like when he goes off, when he struggles in an inning, it's not like he gives up a run or two. He gives up multiple runs and blows up for runs of 3, 4, and innings that are just not good. And so as of late, you've come out and said, look, I've watched this guy. I've seen what he's done now for the better part of 2 seasons. He has a multitude of injuries that are just hampering him. You don't believe anymore. And you went out on your Twitter page at Vito Jerome, and you messaged us and you said, hey, I got a take. It's strong. And my take is cut him. Let him go. Pay him his money and let him hit the skids and be gone from the Detroit Tigers. Why'd you say that?
Well, how about this? Since joining the Tigers in 2016 and 84 games now in the Tigers at uni, he has produced 0.8 WAR. That's what somebody produces in one season, man. His ERA is 7+, 0-6 on the season, worth this season, according to BaseballReference.com, negative 0.4 WAR. Hasn't been good, John, okay? There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And then you started bringing up, then you actually sounded all right in the latter part of what you were saying before you let me talk here. You were saying how they're not giving him a lot of run support. He sucks anyway. Doesn't matter how many runs you're scoring. Please don't even give me that as an excuse. If you're allowing 7 runs, well, the team's probably not going to score 8, okay, to bail you out. He deserves to lose all these games. He's 0-6 and deserves to be gone.
Okay, but I think the funny part is maybe we have to rework your statement because has there been a guy that made a boatload of money that just got let go? Owners don't do that. I would never do that. I'd keep you on, for thousands of dollars. Like, okay, Vito's getting thousands of dollars, I could keep it, but screw it. I'll just give it to him and keep you on. You broadcast, you're semi-decent. I'd keep you around.
I look good.
I would never be like, here's thousands of dollars, Vito, walk away. That would never happen. And I'll be like, look, you can just be a freelancer that I call once a year and do service for the Detroit Sports Podcast other than saying, here's a check to do nothing. No owner that has a bank account really wants to give away money unless you're the Yankees and you're just printing money left and right. If you're the Tigers and you're penny pinching, do you just say, you know what? Maybe he just has to have some starts skipped or just sit him down and just in a situation where he's struggling, just skip a couple starts and sit him down, or maybe even, you know what? Be progressive. He's the opener. You got 1 inning, 2 max. And for the better part of his last contract, you're a 2-inning pseudo reliever.
But he's making all that money. We've talked about this before. You brought up that concept before. Yeah. It might work if he wasn't making boatloads of money.
You got to use them. You can't. No one's going to, because I think you're just saying, what you're saying is, I don't want to see Jordan Zimmermann. And what I'm saying is, it's just not going to be realistic, so stop saying it. Stop saying cut him, because it's just not a feasible thing that no owner does. I want to potentially expand the talk into what can you realistically do to pay the guy until he leaves? Because obviously when his contract's done, he will no longer be a member of the Tigers. We'll all forget him. He's going to go into the Mike Maroth category of signings, a guy that's like on the team but really was unproductive.
Mike Maroth didn't make all this money.
I know
he wouldn't be applicable. It's about the money. $24 million this season to be an opener, to pitch 2 innings to start? You got to be kidding me, John. $25 million, by the way. It's increasing next year because he's been so great this year, right? Negative 0.4 WAR. Because he's been so great this season, he's getting paid $25 million annually. $25 million annually the next 2 seasons. Think about that, John. It's ludicrous. I wish I could receive a couple of the mil that he's making for doing absolutely nothing right now.
Well, what I'm saying is we got to reshape what his role can be. Should he move to the bullpen? Should he just be a reliever now?
A reliever for that much money? I'd say skip him the rest of the way this season and buy him out. You brought up how the Tigers are penny pinching. Do they really have to be, though? I think it's more choice than them being forced to conducting this penny pinching, which they are. Come on. They don't spend on free agents, and they're not going to until when? What did Avila say? 2021 at the very soonest? So, you sign Josh Harrison, Jordy Mercer on the cheap. So spend your big money on buying this guy out because you're not using the money for any free agents you're bringing in. So buy him out, man, because nobody wants to see him in a Tigers uni ever again at this point, man.
This is not feasible. Has it happened? Do you know of any significant
You said
buyouts?
the Yankees because they have the money, but why can't we beat the Yankees? Won a lot. I know they have more money, but the Tigers, my point is, Chris I doesn't have to penny pinch as much as he does. He's doing fine for himself, okay? And him buying out Jordan Zimmerman, how much would that ultimately affect his bottom line? Come on, man. How much is paying him, 24, 25 mil to go away going to really affect his bottom line? Well, they're not spending money on anybody else on this roster outside of Miguel Cabrera. That's my point with Chris I, and when you bring up the concept of penny pinching.
All right, Vito. I'm a guy that says, look, let's talk real. In that, I don't think that Chris I will ever cut the check for Miggy or Jordan Zimmerman. Jordan and Miguel will be on the roster next year, and it'll be a similar situation. So I would say, you know what? It's imperative to the Tigers, not to podcasters, to decide what's the best way to use Jordan Zimmerman. I think the best way is when it's his time in the rotation, throw him in there for an inning or two, and that's it. Your limit is 60 pitches, and that's it.
Your limit is 10 pitches, Jordan. Please, get in, get out.
Hey, if you can't be the best starter, at least be the best opener. Maybe he's a guy that can have a lower ERA for 2 innings. And
he gets bombed in the first inning. He gets bombed in every single inning. Not just after 2 or 3 times through the lineup. It's the first time through the lineup as well when he gets bombed.
Who's worse, him or Carpenter?
Oh, Ryan Carpenter, who has never achieved any kind of major league success. I'd rather have Jay Zim, but only by a hair at this point.
Yeah,
and you brought up really quick buying out Miguel Cabrera. I don't want to do that. He's a legend with the Tigers. So there'd be no rhyme or reason. And then he's hit 300 for a lot of this season, or for some of the season, down to 293 right now. At least he's in the positive. He's in the positive when it comes to wins above replacement. Currently at .1 WAR. Not even close to what he's making. But still, hey, we're something in the positive when it comes to WAR. So got to give Miggy that much. And when you're comparing him to Jordan Zimmerman, I know it's not saying much for Miggy and what he's truly produced for the Tigers this season, but at least he has produced more than a guy like Jordan Zimmerman.
2 quick topics before we're done. I want to tease something I see in the papers. As Detroit Tigers try to fill seats, some season ticket holders fume. I'm going to send you that link, and we'll talk about that on the next edition of Tigers Talk. Real quickly, they did add Trevor Rosenthal, a former stud closer. What do you think his impact is going to be? Is he going to be impactful at all? What do you make of the signing? Is he going to be somebody of note? Can he be a viable option if Shane Green is no longer on the team?
I'll just say this. I am as much of a stud closer as Trevor Rosenthal at this point in Rosenthal's career. He's very inefficient, a guy I don't want pitching at the end of games. But here's how the Tigers view it. Take a chance on this guy, can throw 100 miles per hour, 100 miles per hour plus still. And what do you have to lose? When you're losing almost every single game. So realistically, it's not the worst waiver wire or free agent pickup at this point because of the Tigers being in this lame duck status, being this team that isn't going anywhere this season. So I see a little bit of reason and validity for this Tigers signing, but is this going to lead to the Tigers not going on a winning streak? Or am I expecting him to shine in a Tigers uni the rest of the way this season? Heck no.
Finally, what do you think Jack Morris and Miguel Cabrera talked about? Do you think they hashed it out? Do you think they're in a good place? Or do you feel like they just had the conversation that it was for everyone to kind of air it out and say, look, I said these things. I didn't mean that you were a bad leader. I just said that you are what you are and that people should not really clamor for you to be more than what you are. Do you think that Jack Morris and Miguel Cabrera can be friends? Why can't we be friends?
Well, we can barely be friends. And honestly, you say the stuff that you mean to my face and via text. They were saying the stuff behind each other's backs. So can they be friends? Can you be friends with anybody that talks behind your back? Honestly, probably not. They're never going to be full-fledged friends. They might act like it and give off the facade that they're friends when they're around media members like you and I, but truly, are they friends? Hell no.
We'll end the podcast with some music. I think that Tiger Nation needs to unite and just got to kind of relax, enjoy some music. You ever hear the song?
Oh, yeah, I know the song. I know the refrain at least. Why can't we be friends? I know that at the very least, John Macaroon. Now, this song came out when you were how old? Does this date you significantly, or did it come out before you were born? I hope for your sake before you were born, 'cause I know this is an old song. Very old song, John.
Tigers Twitter, why can't we be friends?
But here's the thing, John. Can we be friends with other Tigers fans and just everybody up, the Tigers included, when they're picking up a guy like Trevor Rosenthal? By the way, I want to just bring this up really quick. Monday night was his Tigers debut, so it included a first pitch that hit umpire Laz Diaz in the leg, another pitch that went behind Tyler Naquin, then some fastballs that just missed triple digits, and a few nasty sliders, as Jason Beck put it on Twitter, at BeckJason on Twitter. Can we be friends with Trevor Rosenthal and other Tigers and they're just not performing?
Guess
and
what?
Rosenthal, we got to give a little bit of a leash, but still, you know what I feel about
To end the
Trevor Rosenthal.
podcast, Jordan Zimmerman, Miguel Cabrera, Trevor Rosenthal, Matthew Boyd, we cannot be friends. Our time has come. In the coming weeks, we're expecting that your allegiances to the Tigers will end. They'll be gone. And once that happens, now it's great. We've talked to you. You've added knowledge to our knowledge base. But once you're no longer a Tiger, we're no longer friends. It's the way it is.
Wow, that's really brutal.
So we cannot be friends. And hopefully, with Jordan Zimmerman, that his performance is turned around. And consider it. I think we're sitting on a great opener, and we don't even know it.
Openers should be guys, once again, that are making a lot of money. Do you get this concept of an opener, John?
But the guy that signed Jordan Zimmerman's dead, so we can't worry about that. We say this is
You're
is
dragging
reality.
him into this, really? Mike Guy into this?
This is a decision that was made. Look.
What a low blow to him and his legacy, John Charles Macaroon.
See, the difference between you and I is you're the guy that just says, well, just cut him. And I say, okay, it's not going to happen. You're more a theoretical, this is what should happen. And I'm more of a, this is what could happen, because they're never going to cut. They're never going to write a check to Zimmerman and Miggy to just walk away.
Not Miggy again. Just
not
Jay
doing
Zim.
it.
Only one guy, not both.
Okay.
They're both making way too much money. Keep Miggy. He's a legacy Tiger.
It's not going to happen for either. So with that said, it is imperative upon management, upper management like myself, to say, okay, this guy's underutilized, or this guy's being utilized in a improper way, so let's utilize him in a way that actually makes sense. And so for Jordan Zimmerman, pitching 6 innings and 90 pitches makes no sense. It's obvious. So let's have him pitch 30 pitches, go balls to the wall, or, you know what? I'll make him my closer.
Well,
I dropped you there. You stopped talking, so that's awesome.
I was going to say, feasibility-wise, sure. You got to keep him, I guess. I guess is all I'm going to give you. I guess they have to keep him based on his contract, what he's making
to
per
change
season.
his role. He is no longer a starting pitcher. Why they have not recognized that and say, look, and that's the one thing I think about sports is sometimes they beat a dead horse. Jordan Zimmerman as a starting pitcher is not somebody that is effective and doesn't give the Tigers the best chance to win. I don't know if they're going to wait 1,000 days to figure that out. You and I have figured it out. Tiger Nation has figured it out.
The Tigers have already figured it out.
The Tigers
They're
have
just
figured
dealing
it
with
out.
his contract at this point.
So change his role. I think he'll also like going out there for 2 pitches. I think he'll like going out there for 2 innings, not that much stress, get 6 outs, and go back to the dugout and sit down and high-five the fellas. And
he's not high-fiving anybody after an inning or 2 innings. He's a gamer. He's a competitor. He's used to throwing 5 or 6 innings at a time. Remember that as well. This guy's not going to just accept that role.
All right.
And it has to come down to that as well. Him accepting that new role.
I'm Ron Gardenhire. You're Jordan Zimmerman.
Okay, tell me, how would you say it to me?
Jordan, the last performances haven't been that good. We've given you a couple chances now. I think our situation has pretty much dictated that we're putting you in the bullpen, and next coming starts is what's going to happen. Versus the Blue Jays, you're going to start 2 innings. I need you to give me 35 pitches, best you got. I think we're going to go in a different direction. We're going to bring up Spencer. We're going to have others. We're going to give others a chance. Really, I think that's best for the ball club. We need you to be the opener and maybe a closer.
Gardy, no offense to you, but enjoy the rest of the year, and I'm out. I'll see you.
Yeah, sure. I'm sure you say.
And good luck to you the rest of the way in a Tigers uni, because your time as manager, I think the clock is ticking. It's ticking rapidly, man.
Thank you for everybody that's found the podcast. You can find all the podcasts on the network anywhere that your favorite podcasts are hosted. You can follow Vito on Twitter at Vito Jerome. Follow the network at Detroit Podcast. If you've agreed or disagreed on anything that we've said, feel free, hit us up. We'll definitely engage in some conversation. Thank you for tuning into the latest Tigers Talk podcast. We'll see everybody next week. Look forward to it. And thanks to the great sponsors, the Detroit Sports Commission and DC Sports over there at Lakeside Mall. See you, Vito.
Adios.